I think it's important that I get this clip out there. It has to do with narratives and agendas. This morning, there's a news report out, and I'm going to get some information on that and put that out as well, regarding 4 people that supposedly are involved in a plot to kill police officers down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Those individuals are black, and the information is just coming out. Apparently, they caught 3 of the individuals, with the 4th still being at large. They've already released the age of one of the individuals, being 13 years old. I have no doubt that this is going to run like crazy because of the police under attack narrative that's being pushed out by mainstream media. It's funny, however, that when a white man actually kills 2 court bailiffs and wounds a police officer in Michigan, that story was glossed over by mainstream media. And it led me to believe that there's an agenda here. This particular Roland Martin show clip is going to give you some actual statistics and facts about who actually is, quote unquote, waging a war on the police. And it's not really black people.
Folks, see this photo here? This is Larry Darnell Gordon. He is a man who shot and killed 2 bailiffs, shot a deputy sheriff as he was trying to escape custody in a courtroom in Michigan. I know it might be a shock to you because basically national media has ignored this story. It is stunning, and that is the case. That he was described as always cooperative, but he, of course, was being held on a sex offense charge. But yeah, he all of a sudden decided to go after these officers of the court, and again, 2 are dead. Here's what folks had to say yesterday in Michigan.
Our hearts are broken for their families and for their kids at this point.
Now, here's what's interesting to me, folks. This year alone, 71% of police officers who have been killed by whites. But if you look at the debate happening around the country, you swear black folks are taking out cops left and right. I want to go back to our panel. Monique Presley, Shermichael Singleton, Tiffany Loftus. Shermichael, I want to start with you. This to me is where national media has been quite offensive. In that it creates this impression that African Americans are targeting police officers, all this blaming of Black Lives Matter. Yet when whites kill cops, it's as if, oh well, it didn't happen.
Well, and it also perpetuates that African Americans are this aggressive group of people. I think, Roland, when you look at the country, it's quite clear that there's a lot of division going on right now. And I think when you look at political leaders, when you look at the national media, there's a responsibility to attempt to heal some of these wounds. I would even argue even the impartial spectator would have to admit the reality is that there are a lot of biases within our country, coming from the media, coming from our political leaders, as it pertains to African Americans and non-minorities. Caucasians, and I think that has to change if we plan to truly heal some of the divisions that are going on within our country.
I read a piece, Monique, by Eric Bollert with Media Matters, where he lays out how literally in the cases where officers have been killed by whites, it's as if Fox News doesn't even want to even report this case. If people are going to run around talking about, protecting cops and defending cops, there has to be a truthful conversation in this country and not give the impression that African Americans are the ones who are targeting cops when 71% of all cops killed this year have been killed at the hands of whites, not blacks.
Yes, and this is just another example of where the numbers don't fit the narrative, Roland, where what media wants to portray as true doesn't have anything to do with the actual facts or the actual data. So the fact that the numbers are larger for the police officers who are killed at the hands of non-minorities isn't a good fact. Neither is the fact that there are more African Americans who are touched more frequently than that of whites when they're stopped. The fact that there are more whites who are committing crimes, more whites who are in impoverished conditions and using those impoverished conditions to rape and pillage neighborhoods. All of those things are actual facts. But when we hear the stories, the way it's pushed out, we're highlighted, we're separated, we're set apart for all of the wrong reasons. And it's just going to take, as part of a national conversation, and as part of the real goals of the movement, whether it's Black Lives Matter or whether it's individual civic organizations, putting this actual information out there. Even when there's a New York Times story like yesterday that says we're more likely to be touched, we're more likely to be frisked, we're more likely to be shot, those numbers aren't getting the attention right now. Instead, we've got these same stories about a racial divide because of the name of a particular movement. It's ridiculous.
Tiffany, 3 years ago, a guy shoots and kills Ismae Brinsley, shoots his ex-girlfriend in Baltimore, travels to New York, ambushes 2 cops, kills both of them. All of a sudden, Fox News, as well as Rudy Giuliani, blame President Obama, blame the Attorney General Eric Holder, and then New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio. But then all of a sudden, though, when you had the shooting of the shooting deaths of a couple of cops in Las Vegas, that was just sort of them acting on their own. I can go down case after case. September 2014, Eric Frine, and this is from Eric Bollard's piece, again, tried to assassinate state troopers. Killed one of them walking to his patrol car. He wanted to commit mass murder. They were like, well, that's just a loner. It's amazing, again, and this is important because, again, the fact that days after in Dallas, 5 cops gunned down, and then you see this thing out of a courtroom in Michigan, it's as if watching all these networks that didn't even happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Roland. I think there's a couple of points to this, right? One is that this has been happening for a very long time, which we need to consider and address and also remember as we think about solutions to the problem. Part 2 of this is we have to think about who controls which media stations, right? Because their audiences are not always people that look like me. And so there are different messaging strategies that these folks have to be able to create the paradigm in the conversation around Black Lives Matter, black, blue, white, black, blue, red, whatever it might have been, to paint this picture. And my concern and my worry is that in the future, when we look back on the history books, what are those students, what are those kids going to learn about what took place right now? And they might not know the truth. I was watching Fox News the other day, and Bill O'Reilly said, you know, Martin Luther King would have never been a part of the Black Lives Matter movement. And I said, how do you know that? What picture are you painting? What facts do you have? And who are you speaking with? And the fear and the problem, Roland, is that the audience that is watching this messaging that's taking place, the people who are controlling the strategy that comes out, that paints the picture that Black Lives Matter is evil, that black people are killing police officers, that Black Lives Matter and police officers hate each other, the narrative that's taking place, and they're not actually using facts or using the agenda that Black Lives Matter actually has on its website, which people don't actually go and view and take a look at, that's going to put us in a conversation and in a problem where in the future, we're not going to understand or know what positive and real solutions can come to play, because all of these are lies.
Now, here's the deal, and I'll be willing to put $1,000 on this, that you're going to see massive coverage when it comes to these 3 individuals who were arrested in Baton Rouge for plotting to kill cops. And then you will say, well, a guy who actually killed 2 cops and injured another, no one even talked about. Watch that become the focal point today in national media. Shermichael, your thoughts?
Again, Roland, if we're ever going to have a real conversation about many of the discrepancies in our country as it pertains to race, we have to accept these realities. As Monique pointed out, you're entitled to your own opinions, but the facts are facts. We have to look at those things and figure out what all of us can do by working together in unity to heal some of these things. If if we continue to create paradigm shifts for various groups within our society, how can we ever expect to get to a place where all of us are able to work together and live together collectively? That's not going to ever happen. So it is indeed my hope that at some point organizations like Black Lives Matter, which does indeed raise critical and essential critiques of a system that is severely flawed, will be accepted by those individuals who don't quite understand it. And to those individuals who don't, I would say imagine what you yourself would feel in a like situation. And then perhaps you would understand where Black Lives Matter is coming from.
Can I add one more thing?
Monique, I don't want a conversation. I just want the damn truth.
Yes. Yes, that is exactly what was about to come out of my mouth. I am so tired of these conversations with America. I know that they're necessary, but when are we going to get from discussion to action? It takes the invigoration of the youth, which is wonderful, but we have to add that to action and reform. And some of these old timers rolling in our own community have to look at what is happening on the streets and say, okay, what can I do up in this big mansion to help these young people get something done? The movements decades ago were not just about walking in the middle of the street, but yes, MLK was walking in the middle of the street without a permit. I don't know what we're even thinking, saying that he wouldn't be in favor of what Black Lives Matter is doing. They're doing what was taught to them by the heroes of the 60s and the 70s. But even beyond that, when will it turn into action? When will we look at what is happening now and say enough is finally enough? No other person from our community will be killed without us stopping the economic markets, without us stopping what's happening in the polls and putting people in who can actually change things. I'm exhausted of all the talking, and you know I'm a talker, so that's saying something.
All right, folks.
All right, so if there is a war on cops, it's a secret war. It's a secret war being waged on cops by white people, but they will refuse to put that out there. Just as everyone on this show said, when a white person kills a cop, it barely makes print media. It barely makes mainstream media that's televised. You won't hear it on any radio shows which are dominated by the conservative right. There are very few radio shows that are out there, that I've found anyway, that are left-leaning. There are some, but very few. But again, when a white person kills a cop, it is barely a blip on the radar. When a white cop kills a white person erroneously, that too is a blip on the radar. It's only when a white cop kills a black person that black people get incensed and push it out there and force it out there. And then the people on the right get upset. People like Bill O'Reilly, who want to make false allegations against groups that are actually trying to do something, primarily Black Lives Matter. So I really don't want to hear it. If you want to start talking about fighting the war, police officers, you need to start looking at the people who are actually creating victims. And the group that is predominantly creating police officer deaths in this country are white people, and you need to get that out there and get off our asses as far as black people being the ones that have a war on police.